By Destiny, Danielle, Kayln, and Somoli. Global warming. Global warming is caused by greenhouse gases. These gases build up in the atmosphere, causing the entire planet to warm. Global warming could cause mass destruction. It would warm up cold places. Animals and plants are accustomed to live in very specific temperatures that are not conducive to their survival. Polar bears would lose their homes, the ice would melt, they'll have to swim all day and night, and eventually die. It could also ruin harvests. This could happen because in the past, Britain was the hottest since 1659. Two movies that are based on global warming are Arctic Tale and The Day After Tomorrow. Giant solar flares. A solar flare is a brief eruption of intense high energy. Radiation from the sun's surface associated with sunspots and causing electromagnetic disturbances on the Earth. A solar flare occurs when magnetic energy that has built up in the solar atmosphere is suddenly released. A solar flare contains high-energy photons and particles and is released from the sun in a relatively short amount of time, which is almost a few minutes. For years, the sunspots have exploded off the sun, but the scientists believe before the sun actually explodes, big chunks will depart, causing little destruction. Scientists conclude that the sun is like the Earth. It has a core inside, so let's say the core stops spinning. The sun will begin to heat up, expanding larger and larger chunks, also known as solar flares, will be released and charged towards the Earth, with more smaller sun flares tagging behind, causing mass destruction. Some book names are Dawn of Eden, Cusp, Solar Flares, and the movies are The Knowing in 2008 and Solar Flares in 2009. Ecosystem collapse. Well, first, an ecosystem is a biological community of organisms in their physical environment. So I got all the organisms eating each other, but what if one of those organisms collapsed or died out? Then the one that eats that organism dies, and so forth. Example, say I have plants that produce pollen and bees. If all the plants that produce pollen was to get extinct, then the bees would not be able to survive because they eat pollen. Therefore, we would not get all the things we need for us to survive because pollen is in 3/4 of all the food we eat. Plus, we wouldn't have honey. And since the pollen is gone, so is all the food that needs or have pollen in it. So we wouldn't survive in some weird way, but then again, that's just plausible.